Welcome to Smut, did you say? Hosted by Nurse Nikki in association with Queerlana. Before we begin, please note that the views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and not necessarily Queerlana as a whole. This podcast is for educational and resource purposes only. It is not intended as medical advice, legal advice, or a substitute for professional care. Because of the nature of healthcare work, we may discuss heavy or sensitive topics, including mental health struggles, suicide, sexual assault, death, or violence. Listener discretion is advised, and this podcast is recommended for adult audiences age 18 and older. If you are in crisis or need immediate support, please reach out to a qualified professional or call your local emergency number. Okay, on to Nurse Nikki.
Girls and gays, thadies and gentlethems, it's time to answer Smut Did You Say? Where we'll expose ourselves to uncomfortable truths, plow into some pillow talk, and get those burning questions looked at. I'm Nurse Nikki, she, her. Today's guest is Chris. Please introduce yourself and tell us smut we're talking about.
Hey, I'm Chris Gilbert, he, him, and we're talking about being queer and going into politics.
Being queer and being here. So, I met Chris at I think it was like a painting party, like in May of 2024. And, when I feel like when nurses meet out in public, they kind of just gravitate towards each other. And, you were running for House representative at the time. And so you were giving out your info and seeing somebody, a queer representative in politics, just like having like a queer teacher or a queer doctor or whatever, is just it's really awesome. And you just want to learn more about that person and see what they're about. And especially in the South, because having queer politicians is not the norm, just kind of figuring out what the game plan is and how they got there and what, where they're going. So tell us a little bit about your background and what kind of got you to this point in your journey for advocacy.
Yeah, so, our backgrounds line up. I started out as a CNA and then obtained my CNA 2, my licensed practical nurse, my registered nurse.
You did every peg on the ladder.
I did. And, my thinking behind that was that because nursing is such a serious profession that my thought was when I took control of those patients, I want to make sure that I confidently could give care.
Yeah.
And so I did. My husband and I traveled in our RV all over the country, travel nursing.
Yeah.
It was wonderful while it lasted.
It was. Yeah.
Because then the pandemic happened, and I feel like that's where healthcare took a turn for the worse for me personally, and then a lot of the peers that I worked with.
Absolutely, yeah.
I remember having all the cold pizza talks about, Jayco would come in every once in a while, and you would get wrote up for silly things, but then when the actual pandemic was happening,
they were not there at all.
Correct. And
they were nowhere to be found.
We were recycling masks, and they were so aware of that.
Oh, 100%. Oh, it's okay if you wear it for like if the staples stay in place, or if it's not soiled on the inside, but we're going to put it under a UV light and then give it back to you, the same mask. Yeah, this one has lipstick in it and I don't wear.
Right. Yeah. So what happened, I feel like, during the pandemic, in my opinion, is that big business or big corporations started taking over healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
And really the healthcare setting went from a loving and healing environment to how much profit can we make, and doing so by cutting staff, which decreases safety, which increases patient falls, patient safety issues all around.
Yeah.
And I found myself in the situation because some of the administrations at these private corporate hospitals felt that they could do what they want, and the corruption, just like in politics or in hospitals as well. And I was actually fired for reporting unsafe staffing.
Really?
Yes, there was me and
You're a
another.
whistleblower.
Yes, yeah, I was a whistleblower, and I got fired for it. There was me and another registered nurse and one tech on a acute behavioral health unit. And
No sitters?
no,
Were you
mm,
supposed, did you normally have sitters? Or were they
no,
like video?
mm,
No, okay.
mm. This two
So this is
RNs and a
bad to begin
CNA.
with.
Yes, so
Okay.
and I kept telling my coworkers, I'm like, this is really something to see.
Mhm.
And it really changed my life. First of all, the hospital should be a place that when the family goes home, you should go home in peace, knowing that your family is in the safest place and in good hands.
Yeah.
And I feel like now that healthcare has been more focused on making profits, what I seen with my own eyes disturbed me
Yeah.
to the point to where I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And then when that came up, I took the opportunity after they terminated me to do my therapy because I'm a veteran also. And I served during the Don't Ask, Don't Tell period,
Yeah.
which was before you could be openly queer in the military and also before you could be married. I entered in 2004. And that's actually how I did all my nursing was my GI Bill because I grew up in poverty.
Yeah.
So a lot of my work is based on dignity, human rights, the working class people. That's all very much so based on my lived experiences and in the failures of our social structures that we really need to elect people to get in there and fix the gaps in
Yeah.
between.
Absolutely.
I will say once I did my therapy with the VA, I wasn't aware that I had PTSD
Yeah.
until this point, right?
Yeah.
So obviously when you're on acute mental health, behavioral health, we're talking behavioral health here or mental health, and you're in a very dangerous situation, you freeze. So come to find out after going through all the treatment with my care team at the VA, I was unaware that these instances in healthcare actually made the PTSD that I already had worse.
Yeah.
And that's what the people at home that are not in healthcare, I want you to understand that is the danger that nurses and medical professionals are in these hospitals.
Yeah, we are in a lot of we are in danger.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all the time.
Absolutely. And the staffing ratios, I've always found those to be a joke, to be honest.
They are. Yeah. The thing that really upsets me is that you'll be like, we have a need for like this role to be filled by either a nurse or a paramedic or whatever. And then they're like, well, we don't have the metrics to like support the need for that system.
Right.
But I'm telling you that none of your staff get a lunch. And you're saying that you can't do what another hospital does by filling a role that is only lunch relief.
Right.
But we can't do that. But your hospital's busier than the hospital that's doing that, and they're making it work. So how can they have that extra staff but you don't? Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Right.
Because anytime there was extra staff, they would get pulled into like, putting the stretchers out in the hallways and stuff like that, which is not safe. I was asked to give it was paying dose ketamine, but all the same. I was asked to give ketamine to a patient in a hallway, and I was like, I'm not doing
Oh
that.
my goodness.
I said, I don't really care that they don't have to be on the monitor or anything, but if something happens and I'm in the hallway with no oxygen, no vital signs machine, no EKG that's readily set up, no suction, no IV pole, like I don't have anything to save this patient if something goes wrong. No, there's no code card in the hallway. Like you have to go all the way into the department to get the code card.
Right.
And you think about the things that can happen from giving people drugs. So like we know all of the risks and time frames and stuff for opioids. And like that if you're patient, you're looking at your patient, you're like, are they breathing? That you should probably, get some vital signs and see where they're at with that. And you pop them on some oxygen and they're normally fine. You give them some Narcan. Well, ketamine can't be taken back, what do you call it? Reversed, yeah. And while it is technically safe to give 0.1 to 0.3 milligrams per kilogram every 20 minutes, it still increases secretions, and it still can cause you to dissociate a little bit. And it can also do some other things. No, it doesn't cause respiratory depression in the same way that opioids do. However, it still has safety risks. But I asked for the policy several times, and the doctors didn't know the policy. And then they'd pull up their email and be like, "Oh, it's this." I said, "This has absolutely no like nursing like
Insight.
parameters." Yeah. And then, we've been using opioids for pain relief for so long that we know like what to look out for those. But ketamine, while it has been around for a long time, has not been used in that realm for a long time. It's not something I feel comfortable giving somebody in a recliner chair, much less a child.
Right.
And I was looking at the policy. I said, "This has no nurse safety stops. Like, you're telling me that this is the policy. Well, that doesn't cover my license. Might cover yours, but it doesn't cover mine."
And that's exactly what I was going to say, is that for people outside of healthcare, what they need to understand is that doctors, nurses, we all practice off of our own license.
And doctors' licenses do not cover nursing licenses, no matter how much they want to tell you what to do.
Right.
They can't. They don't sign your paycheck, and their license doesn't cover yours.
So I've certainly seen the complications where they put you, I feel like these corporate hospitals put the nurses, their staff, in between a rock and a hard place. And they really try to put all the accountability on your back for circumstances that you cannot control, like,
Yeah.
With staffing, for instance.
Yeah. Yeah, well, which is how people end up in stretchers in the hallways and recliner chairs, because your throughput is so messed up because you don't have the staff to adequately get them from like one area to another. And like, yes, it's a volume problem too, but like a lot of it is staffing, because your staff isn't moving how they should because they're tired and they've been doing the same thing over and over again, and it's just a lot. But anyway, sorry.
In the hospitals, I learned a lot in the hospitals about the failure of our healthcare system.
Oh yeah.
Just like the ED, and then, you could pull up the census, wherever you're at, kind of see what's going on in other departments. And it's not, healthcare is a right.
Yeah.
The problem, I think the complaints from the hospitals is that people use the ED as primary care.
Which they do, but that's not their fault.
Right, because they're working 2 and 3 jobs and can't afford health care.
Or can't
afford a health insurance.
Or can't get to the appointments when they're happening.
Right. And also the hospital gives you a good view on displacement in the community. The amounts of people, that show up simply for like turkey sandwich platters.
Yeah, and then they'll be like, "Oh, they're just here to get fed." I was like, "Well, there's a reason for that."
Correct.
"Oh, they're here every time it rains, we get all the homeless people in here." Well, there's nowhere for them to go.
It is certainly, I would imagine, unpleasant to live in the elements. And
yeah,
I feel like some people don't see the socioeconomic failures of the richest country in the history of the world. Right. So there's really no reason for all of this.
Yeah. So the social determinants of health are starting to be screened by nurses now, but they're not getting done in the ER. So you have to be admitted to have your social determinants of health screened. And
payment source is an issue for that.
Payment source, yeah. And maybe the ER, I think, is a little bit easier and harder in some ways, because you have all these community resources that you know about that you can give to people, but you can't like help them set it up.
Right.
And so it would be nice to have a social worker that they could have a phone number to be like, "Hey, I'm having trouble getting my medications, or I'm having trouble getting to this appointment," or whatever. And then they could call that social worker, and that social worker could work with them. But in that snapshot of time, that's just whatever their ER visit's for, you can't address all those problems, and you can't put that on nursing. And the social workers in the ER, most places don't have enough social workers to do things like that, because there are so many social needs. So they kind of just put it on case management in the in the inpatient realm, and you just ask people like, hey, before you're discharged, do you have do you have a safe place to live? Like, does it have heat? Does it have water? Does it have this? And then you ask them if they have enough food in the home and if they're able to pay their co-pays and their for their medications and stuff like that. And then if they can't, you give them a piece of paper with a phone number on it, and it's like, here, call them.
Right.
You know,
And not everybody has the same capacity to,
yeah.
some people need help, whether it's technology
Mm-hmm.
or I know, for example, when I still get medications at Walgreens, every month was a mess,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a long line, and it just seemed like you
I
had
stopped going to Walgreens. I go to Publix now. It's much better.
all mine's through the VA now,
Yeah.
and it's wonderful. It's like universal health care.
And you'll hear like the conversations that they're having with people about like, oh, this is going to be $700. Why is it going to be $700?
And the argument and the tug back and forth with the insurance. Like, if your doctor or your provider writes you a prescription, you should be able to take it there, and voila.
Yeah, but they'll like prescribe people Eliquis, and then we'll give them 30-day coupon for Eliquis. Now, after the 30 days, how much is your Eliquis? Probably like $700. And that's a life-saving medication. So you'll get people with pulmonary embolisms, heart attacks, strokes, whatever, that come into the ER because they stop taking their Eliquis. And then the nurses will be like, why would you stop taking your Eliquis? It's so stupid. It's like, okay, well, they probably couldn't afford it.
Right.
It's
the root cause.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you get jaded, but you have to remind yourself, like, I do not know what this person's going through. And they might be like, some people are dangerous and put your life in danger and stuff like that. But some people are just lashing out because they're having a hard time. And because they don't feel respected, or they don't feel listened to, or they don't feel this, that, or the other thing. And some people, keep coming back to the ER for the same things. And we're like, what are you doing? And then when somebody finally asks, are you actually able to get your medications? Are you able to make this appointment? Are you able to get to your appointment?
Right.
Then you find out, they keep coming back because they can't afford their $4 medication because they do not have any money.
Right.
And they cannot get places because it closes at 5 and they get off work at 5:30. You can't take a day off because you couldn't even afford your medications. And people will just throw judgments at people for not doing what they need to do.
And they cut all the programs to support them.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
safety net programs.
Yeah.
Such as Medicaid. And since we're talking about health care.
Yeah.
The big beautiful bill, or the big ugly bill that
The orange one.
the orange one proposed right before the break, the congressional summer break, cut millions of people off of Medicaid.
Well, they couldn't even do like free school lunches everywhere.
Right.
They were like, oh, that's too expensive. And like, oh, people are just going to not feed their kids and send them to school, and then we're going to have to feed them all. So what?
Right.
So what?
And it's simply because they don't want wealthy people. We're talking about these people who are having to go to the emergency department for primary care. But this legislation, right, gives the wealthiest people tax breaks and cuts our elderly and the most impoverished off of their health care. And you and I, both registered nurses, know what happens when people are taking out their health care. What happens?
The ER is full.
The ER is full and people die.
And then people get discharged unsafely because you don't have a payer to go wherever you need to go, or to go to whatever continuing therapy that you need, and you can't get the follow-up care, so you're just right back in the ER.
Right.
And it's just this vicious cycle. And they'll be like, okay, well, you don't have a payer, but you need to go to a skilled nursing facility, but they won't accept you because you can't pay. So you're going to go home with nothing. And then they fall and they're right back again, or they can't take care of themselves or whatever.
And unfortunately, some of these people won't know until they go and get health care that they've been cut off.
Right. Yeah. And that, just speaking of the elderly population, we are coming up on the baby boomers getting old. And because people are living longer and longer, they're having more and more comorbidities or multiple diseases going on. Um, and so they're having more and more of these things happen, which makes their care more and more complex, which makes it last longer, which increases length of stay, which is how long you're staying in the hospital, which increases the money that the hospital is putting in. And um and then the hospital really clamps down on anything that could take away its Medicare and Medicaid funding, like gender affirming care. So that's why these gender affirming care things in places where it's still supposed to be legal are being, like, these programs are being cut, and in really underhanded ways,
Right.
behind the scenes, as they say. And um and yeah, and then when you ask about it, they say, well, we can't risk losing our Medicare funding. And I challenged that, maybe if you provided your your physicians with the education to care for this population, you would not have to cut that program
Right.
in fear of malpractice suits. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting thought. Sure is.
Corporate hospitals have on their mind certainly what they want to have on their mind.
Yeah, and I found that case management, a lot of it is about, like, you can't ask for a different recommendation from therapy because it's technically Medicare fraud to suggest that a patient go somewhere other than what therapy recommended. And they're like, "Well, you can't question the recommendation." Why not? Well, that's Medicare fraud. It's Medicare fraud for me to ask for a reassessment or to ask the doctor to get involved? Well, no, it's Medicare fraud to change the recommendation. Okay, that's not what I was doing. I was using my nursing judgment to say what was best for
Oh, yes, and they
But
certainly
you're
don't
not a
like that.
nurse, you're a case manager, you're not a
Oh,
nurse. So, but yeah, so like you said, the corporations will just kind of keep focused on what they want to keep focused on, and they don't want to hear literally anything else.
right. And that's why and I told my peers when I was still nursing that, I was so passionate about nursing. And as we talked about earlier, I did every step to
Mhm.
become a nurse. I mean, it was a lot of my identity. Yeah, I was so passionate about it. But I just found myself, I just kept talking. I'm like, I'm tired of talking about this stuff that's going on in these hospitals. And by golly, I'm going to do something about it. Like, because I just I'm a person that picks up on patterns.
Yeah,
And, there were assignments that were great. And there was places that I understood why nobody wanted to work there.
yeah.
Um, but I just seen patterns in our healthcare that, this is happening across the country and there's nothing being done about it and it's only getting worse. So, uh, I want to tell everybody at home that's watching this that, especially if you're a nurse, that you're more than qualified to run for office and should do so because all you do is take those skills instead of advocating for patients, you advocate for people in your community.
Which brings me to the ANA, the American Nursing Association has an advocacy like realm where you can go in and you can like put in your email. It says like, I want to learn more about advocacy that I can do. They have a very robust anti-discrimination policy for everyone, not just, things that you can see. And they are more than open to working with nurses in the community. They're starting a new task force type of thing, and where they're trying to get more information out to nurses to say like, these are resources that you can use to improve your own like understanding of these situations.
Right.
And so I did the same thing kind of that you are doing. So when I started ER nursing, I was working in one place. And then I went to a different place and things were similar. So I didn't feel very supported in my goals of like career growth. So I went to a different organization. And some things were like, hey, I want to grow in my career. And some things were supported and some things weren't. So I was like, well, if I'm not going to be able to do what I want to do, I might as well just work in all the ERs and get as much experience as I can, right? So then, like you said, you start noticing patterns and you start saying, well, this isn't just happening in one hospital. People are getting continuously discriminated against and are having these disparities in every hospital. In one company or another, it's still happening. And the thing is that nurses don't know. Well, I'll start with this. Reporting things is a lot of work. And they've made it a lot easier, but they also have not told people where to find these reporting things. You have to kind of go digging for it, or somebody will mention it to you, like if you're talking to like a chaplain or like EAP or something like that. But if you're kind of just like doing your life and surviving through a 12-hour shift and going home, then you're not going to hear about how to report an ethics violation.
Right.
And you're not going to hear about how to get in touch with HR or how to report even a nursing home that's not taking care of their patients well, and that it's either causing a lot of falls, or they haven't noticed that Papa has been on the ground for an entire day. And like you don't know how to report those things, and you don't want to take time to do it, because in nursing, like you said, we're so short staffed. Why would you want to take 10 minutes out of your
And
day?
it's a mentally exhausting
It's mentally
job
exhausting, yeah.
because you're toggling so many things in the span of 12 hours.
And then by the time that you maybe have a second to inhale whatever super unhealthy lunch that you brought for yourself, your donuts or whatever, then you don't want to take that time to write a report about something that happened 8 hours before. So, and you don't want to take it home with you either. But I will say that the ethics reporting portal is very easy to use, and you don't have to be on a work network to do it. You can do it anywhere. The Joint Commission also, like 80% of hospitals are under the Joint Commission umbrella, and they have their own like anti-discrimination and you could report unsafe staffing to the Joint Commission, and if your hospital is accredited by the Joint Commission, the Joint Commission has to look into that. So, and we don't like the Joint Commission, but
because they showed us who they were during the pandemic when it counted.
Right. And I told Dustin that I talked to, I told him that if they've been telling us that we can't have our drinks at the nurse's station forever, the least that they can do is address ethical concerns in the workplace.
Absolutely.
So I'm still waiting to hear back on mine, but I'll let you know when I hear back. Yeah, it's just been so much, like you said, the back and forth, the losing so much of not only the nursing workforce, but just like a lot of respect and understanding of what nurses go through. Like, people were so supportive and thankful of nurses during the pandemic, but I mean, we're still here and we're still having trouble.
Right.
So, and the shortage hasn't gone away. It's just getting worse, in fact, because they're having such trouble keeping newer nurses even in the workforce. So they lost all these veteran nurses, but now they're having trouble even keeping newer nurses staying in the workforce because it's so dangerous and it's so toxic, and it's just... Have you ever think that grown-ups, that you have to be a grown-up to be a nurse? That's not true. You have to be like a really catty teenage girl. And yeah, and it's awful, because if you were bullied in high school, I can guarantee you're going to be bullied as a nurse, because you're that same weird person, and the same people that were bullying people at school are eating their young, so to speak, but sometimes they're eating the old too.
And you brought up, the dangerous situations. That's certainly something that I believe that to be bipartisan legislation that both sides of the aisle could work on to protect nurses. Because to your point, what I see from my perspective is that nursing now is a lot like education was the last 20 years. I feel like education was first, where they moved in and started stripping it out. Like educators used to be like nurses, like
Like respected
right. It
and
was
like
a
yeah.
respected profession.
Yeah.
You know, so much change with education. They just defunded it. And then they came in with the pandemic with healthcare, and that's when it started. And I remember there not being many or at all consequences for patients that would physically harm
Oh,
nurses.
no.
And
But
that certainly needs to be addressed.
did you hear about the ENA's like no violence campaign that they had passed?
No.
So they went to the Emergency Nurses Association has like a day on the hill thing, right? So they go to talk to legislators in I want to say like February or something like that, and they present topics about nursing that, like you said, bipartisan should address. And they did actually, I think it was last year, they passed this no like decrease violence against healthcare providers
Mm.
law where it makes it a felony to attack a nurse and it also verbal threats are also included in this like don't do that type of thing. So I think a it's been like a higher charge to assault a healthcare provider, but making it a felony was a big thing, and just kind of calling on especially like psych units and
Mhm.
emergency departments because those are probably the most dangerous
Right.
areas. Um, but just because people are so volatile and um, yeah, but I mean, I'm not saying that like the ICU is not dangerous and stuff like that. It can be very, very
I don't think the
dangerous.
public really understands how dangerous like inpatient behavioral health and the emergency department simply can be, just because of the range. Emergency department, they go through metal detectors, but you got substances that people are fresh off of that causes a whole, and that's back to the
Well, and
staffing things at the
remember that
hospital.
people that come in through EMS do not go through metal detectors.
Yes, this is true.
They get wanded most of the time.
With high hopes.
High hopes, yes. But yeah, so there was that initiative by the Emergency Nurses Association to decrease workplace violence, and it did help. Um, I think it helped like get emergency departments to be able to get things like metal detectors and more security staff and things like that. And I know for sure that if you if you are reporting violence by a patient that it's taken more seriously. Now, by mental health patients, I don't know though.
It feels like sometimes like the hospital certainly don't. It feels like don't have your back in safety.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. A hospital doesn't, but then if you try to have your own back in safety, then
Right.
sometimes it backfires. And so it's really hard. And it makes nurses, like I said, not want to report anything and not want to take the time to make police reports, to go to the magistrate's office, to whatever.
Which is why they leave, just like in teaching,
Yeah, yeah. And so
because
you just,
it's not worth it
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah. And I've heard stories about nurses that do report things and have been viciously attacked that can't that don't have support from the organization where it happened
Right.
because they'll try to claim that you didn't do something right to cause it to get that way. And I know for one person was just totally like she got beat up and they asked her why she didn't scream loud enough for somebody to hear her. And she said she said I wasn't aware that that was the criteria to be able to, say my life
Wow.
is worth it, that I had to scream loud enough for people to hear me. But you know what's funny is if you're being choked, you can't scream.
That's that's a response like that is so silly. It reminds me why I was like, okay, I need to go out of nursing
Yeah.
and put those skills to making changes, because there's no excuse in that. Like, we have Voceros and all sorts of things.
They
First
don't
of
have
all,
Voceros anymore, honey.
oh, is that old technology now? What? Look, whew, I don't know what it is now. I know I felt like I was on the Starship Enterprise.
They
when I
use an
had-
iPhone now.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
with like it's called like oh, what is it called? Haiku or something. But you have like you can use your iPhone to call like internally in the
Mm.
hospital, and then you can use Epic if you have Epic, but you can use the charting, like the EMR, to like secure message to other people in the chart. But yeah, I mean maybe some hospitals still have Voceros, but but yeah, people will say Vocero when they're talking about the Rover phone.
Mm.
And I think it's hilarious because, like I said, we don't have that many veteran nurses anymore.
So it's like a statement out of the
Yeah, and
past.
you're like, oh, well, where's the Vocero, honey? Auntie.
I mean, I feel like in healthcare, well, shoot, when I started as a LPN, we were still heavily using paper Mars, like in a lot of places.
Yeah,
So when that finally went away, I was very happy.
yeah.
That is terrible to have.
For psych nursing,
well, for
Lord.
anywhere,
Yeah.
long-term care especially. Do you remember? I don't know.
I mean,
goodness.
so they had when I was a healthcare tech at a skilled nursing facility, they did paper Mars, and it would be like it so much, especially if they've been there, for
Yeah.
10 years and stuff, because I mean you could live out the rest of your life there. And those documents were hefty.
And you would change them out at the end of the month on night shift.
Yeah, and go put them in the file or whatever. Yeah,
Absolutely.
they'd be sitting in that room, and there'd be stacks of paper like everywhere. Don't move. Okay. But so when you reported unsafe staffing and you got fired for it, did you fight that at all, or were you just ready to be
I
done?
certainly fought it. I reached out to my travel company,
Yeah.
and I had worked with them. See, I'm a person like I value a good working relationship, so I had been more of a dedicated traveler to this company for 6 years, I believe.
Like even before COVID.
Right.
So before it was
yeah.
before it was the fashion.
Right. When travel nursing before COVID was just like, I'm going to work, but while on vacation.
Yeah, exactly.
But my goodness, and I just lost my thought too.
So you had been working with the same company
Oh, yes.
for a while. Yeah.
So I reported that. I told them what had happened, and I called them the very next morning when I got off work, and I was like, look, I was in the snack room, and I just had to close the door because, I mean, there was just so much chaos and so much going on. Like, it just froze.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is crazy. Like, nobody signs up for this.
Right.
And that's when certainly the money just was not worth it.
Right.
And when I called them, they had this person, like the nurse advocate of the company, supposedly.
Yeah.
She was not interested, certainly biased with the company, but they let me hang out with her.
Oh yeah, of course they did.
I got my own attorney, and of course I got all the receipts of they reported to the Board of Nursing false allegations. And so I got the receipts where all that was cleared. That was another corporate hospital. Oh, yes. Yes. And the gentleman who did that came in there, and he enjoyed himself terrorizing everyone.
Yeah.
But he also made it known that he had political connections, and he did. And they called and had everybody fired on that unit because he had to go into 4-point restraints, which nobody likes putting anybody in 4-point restraints. We know how much charting that is. We know that it's a fight. It's not fun. It feels inhumane. Nobody wants to do that.
I think for nonviolent restraints, you have to have a doctor come in and see them within an hour. But I think for violent, you have to come in and see them within 15 minutes, which is another pain in the butt because your doctor does not want to be interrupted to be like, hey, can you go, look at the patient?
Especially at 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. And And
And you're on the clock. 15 minutes is 15 minutes, and that's
oh
illegal.
yeah.
Legal documentation that
cannot-
falls under your license.
Yeah, and believe you me, you will be getting several emails about it the next day if something in your charting is not there. So, yeah, you have to go get the doctor and you say, can you put this, like the order's already in because you can initiate it, but like they have to like come in and do their assessment within like 15 minutes. And then somebody has to sit there and stare at them for the entire time, and they have to have vitals, or at least you have to try to get their vitals every 15 minutes. If they're still thrashing around,
Right.
you either patient refused or whatever. And you have to document like over and over again, like that you made some sort of effort to get them out of restraints.
And that they're breathing.
They're breathing, yeah. They're breathing. Their
circulation is good.
That yeah, and now the restraints are better now than they used to be, where they're a lot easier to. They're harder to get out of, but they're easier to like make sure that they're not cutting off your circulation, and you can strap it down as hard as you possibly can, and it's still not gonna like dig into their skin, where it used to, like the light blue ones with the, yeah,
Yes.
those are not very comfortable. Those are now like only nonviolent. So and yeah, but yeah, we don't want to tie anyone down to a bed, but they
Right.
do threaten. So how did he end up actually getting people fired then?
Well, and I'll tell you that out of all my years of doing behavioral health, we have these heavy, large metal magnetic doors. I've never seen them actually be bent like this. I'm a large man. I'm 6'2".
Is he on PCP?
No, he just was. It seemed that he was enjoying himself
Mm.
and terrorizing the milieu, and then making it known that he could do what he wants because he had higher contacts.
Yeah.
So he just he did his thing. He was beating on the magnetic door so hard that it bent the corner out, and then it took at least 10 people to put him in restraints. But then they came in and said that we did not follow protocol, even though we tried to avoid putting him in restraint.
Like you didn't try your nonviolent crisis intervention. You didn't try to de-escalate it.
Well, we tried to, but he was trying to. I mean, that was the most danger I had ever felt in. Like he would have hurt us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. It's like, oh, why don't you try deep breathing? But he was already on the
right. But like that's not what they see. They're like looking at the little like CPI book and is like, oh well, did you try this hold? Did you try this hold?
And then he ended up punching one of the techs in the nose and breaking her finger.
Yeah.
So after that, like, I was like, I'm done with, that's 2 instances that I had gotten screwed over really bad.
Yeah.
And it felt like to me, I'm accountable to everything on my license, but these situations that you can't control, and the nursing just pushed me away from nursing.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about like there's not a lot of senior nurses anymore, or that have been around for a while.
Yeah.
That's why. Because nobody wants to go and put their neck on the line every single day.
And be questioned about what you could have done differently.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's like there's never a correct answer, but at the end, just know that you're going to be held accountable for whatever
100%.
happens.
Yeah.
And I just got tired of that because also that was around the time that the nurse in Tennessee, her name slips my mind, but she
I know she gave vecuronium instead of Versed.
And she had been put in jail.
And it was at Vanderbilt.
Yes.
But I don't remember the nurse's name. But I remember all the details.
And accidents happen.
It gets brought up in everything. So I'm going to an emergency nursing conference in like 2 weeks. And one of the people that presented at the National Nursing Conference the first time I went in 2022 gave a presentation at the Southeastern Seaboard Emergency Nursing Symposium about like all these different details about like when nurses were found at fault for like sentinel events and stuff like that. But you can go back and look at like how they got put in that position and like yes, they may have made a bad judgment call, whereas like, that nurse, she had to reconstitute the thing that she gave, which you don't have to reconstitute in first ed. So, I mean, she should have known if you have to reconstitute something, it's the wrong medicine. But at the same time, like, if you've never been in that situation where you're just trying to
Survive.
yeah, you're just trying to do your job and you're trying to get through the day, and you probably haven't eaten all day. You probably have to pee so bad that you have a UTI, and it was a short-staffed thing, and I think she was getting floated to another unit or something like that. But, there were a lot of factors that put her in a situation to make a mistake. And we are human. We will make mistakes. I have personally made some pretty significant errors
Same.
as a nurse, and they'll never leave my head. But I know for a fact that it would not have happened had there been support that needed to be there. So, yeah, it's not like, it's not like what happens in nursing stays in nursing, but we do have to have each other's backs. And like, if somebody says something's a problem, like, don't pretend like it doesn't exist just because you want to clock in, clock out, and go home. Like,
Right.
we have to, if there's a problem, we have to be
As a nurse
team.
community.
Yeah, we have to be a community, and we have to say, like, hey, this is a problem. Let's do something about it. Now, like I said, nobody wants to do extra work, so it just puts the people that do say something in a position to be like, you're the only one talking, though. So, and I was just talking to another one of my nurse friends that, like, she'd go to these meetings about like shared governance and stuff like that, and she'd be the only one bringing up concerns, and people that she had just been talking to on the floor having the same concerns said nothing. And so it just makes one person look like the problem, and that's how you get singled out and get fired for things like being a whistleblower, because you're the only one who said anything.
Because they're fearful to say anything to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. Because you have this organization that has a history of not supporting their staff, and you don't want to lose your job, and they do a really good job of being like, oh, we'll support you and keep you safe or whatever, but if you try to go up against them, you will lose.
And you and I were in the nursing world, like, cumulatively enough to see this pattern repeat.
Oh, it's
personally,
100%.
and it's not just you and I; it's our
No.
peers that
Yeah.
have that are on the spectrum politically that we worked with. That this is not just a Statesville, North Carolina thing. This is a national.
Well, and
national thing.
it's also not just queer nurses that are dealing with this. I mean, like, every nurse, whether they're blue or red or green, like, that you are, just by being in nursing and being human and making mistakes, you are set up for taking the fall for things. And I've heard about charge nurses even taking the fall for things that happened while they were charge nurses.
Yeah.
And they weren't even, like, involved in it.
And that makes people not want to be charged.
Yeah. Well, you get paid a whole $1 extra an hour. I can't imagine.
To get sued or something.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you'll hear nurses say, like, this isn't worth losing my license over and stuff, but that's very real.
Right.
It
comes from a real place.
Yeah. And like, some things you're like, okay, Donna, like, for real, like, just do your job correctly. You're not going to lose your license. But like you said, it does come from a real place.
In this position, these corporations, these corporate hospitals know what they're doing because they're leveraging their power.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, you can work for us, help us make money, but we're always going to keep you in a gray area.
Yeah.
And people don't know policy.
We have a zero tolerance, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. No, you don't. You don't, because
that's fibs.
The 7 times that I reported the same thing, nothing got done. You'd get questioned if you made too much noise about something and tried, and like, they'd be like, well, you're the only one doing it. I'm like, yeah, because everybody's afraid of you. Right. I'm not afraid of you.
They must have never heard that leaders lead the way.
Mm-hmm.
Some folks just want to follow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe that.
Right. So after leaving the hot mess express that is nursing, how did you get to this political realm?
Well, so after my therapy that I did at the VA, I found myself, I had just applied for my California nursing license.
Mm-hmm.
Like the grand poobah of all nursing
Right.
licenses,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
everybody wants a
The
California.
union.
Yes, the union is like the golden land to go
Yeah.
out there and work. Because I had made the decision after my therapy, I was not working anywhere but on the West Coast
Yeah.
nursing.
Yeah. Well, and not Oregon. So just Washington or
Washington,
California.
California. So I had a pleasant surprise, and my benefits package came in from the VA, and since my military service was in a different time, and since I did all the work of the PTSD therapy and whatnot, I was awarded my full with 100% service connection veteran benefits.
Nice.
So I was like, okay.
And that's a pretty big deal. And some people don't even know they're service connected.
Right, exactly. You don't know when you got PTSD most times.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
There's the sign for anybody at home.
Yeah, if you served in the military or you had a spouse that served in the military,
You got
find out.
PTSD, probably.
Yeah, well, that too, but also find out if you're service connected.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
you can get
'cause a
paid
real
for
talk.
that you didn't know you could have paid for.
Because
Yeah.
real talk, right? Like, in the richest country in the history of the world, we have found ourselves where working class people are scrapping for anything they have or that they can get to benefit their daily life, to save money.
The working
service
class at least used to be a living wage.
Right.
It's just not.
It's
You
not
cannot
anymore.
live on $15,000 a year. You can't live on $35,000 a year. Like, even by yourself. Imagine if you have kids too.
Right.
Like, that's insane.
Right. And with the benefits with the service connection come like with tax breaks.
Yeah.
The health care at the VA, of course. I have an excellent, let me put a plug in here from the LGBTQ plus care team within the VA.
And that
Or
still
was.
exists? Okay.
Now, I'm unsure if the plug has been pulled since then, but I do know that when I did my therapy, I was able to go in this program, which was great because it kind of...
I'm pretty sure that plug has been pulled.
Okay.
Because I tried to reach out to her and I got no response.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I'm so happy that I got in there and got my healing work done, because that program and let's talk about, since the plug was pulled on DEI programs, and why that's so important, because as a veteran, right, although I'm a veteran and I see people I served with any era as brothers, sisters, and theys and thems of service.
Yeah.
As a queer veteran, my first experience at the VA was not comfortable for me.
Yeah.
Because, not everybody is educated in all different types of lifestyles, and that's what you advocate for a lot, right? So people learning things are good.
Learning is good.
Learning is good,
especially in healthcare.
In cultures, because that means that you know your neighbors more and they don't feel so alien to you.
And you're not thinking they're like eating cats and dogs.
We're not eating cats and dogs.
Mm-hmm.
So my care team were just people that know how the queer culture works. Maybe they were in it, I don't know, but I just know that everybody that's involved in my care, they know about our culture, they're educated about our culture. And so I don't feel like I'm treated differently for people who are not educated in how we live our lives, or how things have changed over the course of years. Because some people choose to remain rigid.
Yeah.
And
Indeed.
But so when they started pulling DEI programs earlier this year from the Orange Man in Washington, I do know for a fact that the veteran suicide line was defunded.
Mm-hmm.
and perhaps the program,
The LGBT.
the LGBTQ plus program within the VA. I do know that they lost that. They used to go to the prides with the VA tents,
They did.
and I did not see them at any pride because they lost that funding, which is terrible, and we need that back. And honestly, that's why, in my situation and my background, that I joined, or I started venturing into politics, because after a while you get tired of talking to people, and I got the sense that people were hearing me, but they really didn't give a shit. And
Mhm.
after a while, that really aggravates me. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I am tired.
Know exactly how that feels.
I am so tired of talking.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of, I just turned 40 in April,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like we have a lot of the same leaders on the national level that I grew up
Yeah, they're
with,
never gonna die.
because I've been a nerd all my
Yeah.
life. So I was watching C-SPAN in my
Yeah.
bedroom alone as a 13-year-old, like, but goodness, like, it's just a mess, and we need more people like nurses to run for any kind of office, because
There's like 4. There's like 4 in the Senate. There's 4 nurses
oh
in the
yeah,
Senate.
yeah.
So probably more than there has been, but I think
But people say, growing up, because
but they weren't all like nurses that have had the experiences that all nurses have had. You know what I mean? Like there's medical providers on there. They're not like primary care doctors and stuff like that. They're general surgeons and stuff. It's like, okay, all your patients are asleep.
Right.
Like you have the skills, but you're not dealing with people. And you and the OR is the surgeon's world. Like you're not getting questioned by anybody in there. You know? And yeah, so it's just yeah, I looked it up because I can't remember what master's degree class it was for, but I looked it up one time about what representation the healthcare had in the Congress? Congress, yeah. And I'm not good about the branches of government and
It's
stuff
a
like that.
lot, though, to be fair.
I don't
It's a
know how
lot.
it works. Well, it's just not
It's been my special interest all my life.
really.
So.
Well, yeah, you said you were watching Speed.
Yeah, C-SPAN at 13.
Yeah, no, that was never my thing. Whenever I did government in high school, I'm pretty sure I slept through the whole thing. I'm pretty sure it was right after rowing at like 8 a.m. and I was just like not having it. I didn't actually, this is really shitty, but like I really didn't even vote until he started running for president, because I could have voted in the 2012 election. Would have been the first year I could have voted. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I didn't look into anybody, so I didn't feel like I should like put my say
Yeah.
in. And then 2016, I was like, I have to say something. I was like, I can't abide that. And then, but obviously my one vote didn't make a difference. But it's just, even if you don't know very much, you don't have to know a lot to know that if somebody is on the wrong side of history.
Yes.
You don't have
History
to know.
rhymes.
Yeah. You don't have to know their whole like stance on everything to know that they're a fascist. Like, if they're trying to take people's rights away and strip back things and take away healthcare, which like we said is a right, and defund education and get rid of safety networks and get out of the organizations that are about worldwide safety and advocacy and blah blah blah. Yeah, that's not a good person.
Right. Or
Yeah.
rename the Harvey Milk, the USS.
Sure shit isn't a Christian, I can tell you that.
Correct. The writing's on the wall.
Yeah, for sure. But people like to pretend, like just all these same excuses that were happening in 2016 are still happening. It's like he's done a lot of things that should make you care now, even if he's not a politician and he says what's on his mind.
Well, the good thing is now, and I'll share I understand why people are disenfranchised from politics and
Mhm.
government. One, it can be boring. It should be boring.
Yeah.
I welcome boring
It was
politics
better
back.
when it was
Can we get boring
Yeah.
back, please?
Yeah, can we not have, like,
Chaos every
a
day.
news story where it's, like, literally the world is falling apart every day? I can't even watch, like, satire anymore. It's not funny anymore. I mean, not for lack of trying, but it's too real,
Right.
and then it just never stops, and it used to be, like, when the White House was not orange for a little bit, he was doing things in the background, and we were like, haha, remember when he was running our country and now he's doing it again? Uh, It's so upsetting. I had reached out to that representative from that VA, and we had a talk about what mental health services and things that she had access to and what she was able to help specifically queer people with and things like this. And she was so great at her job. Like, even not being a veteran or whatever, you could just tell she cared about what she
Oh,
did.
yeah.
She put her whole self into it, and she was worried about the future, but she wasn't going to let that stop her from helping whoever she could until it got to that point. And but I did reach out to her after the whole DEI thing, and she was really quick to respond the first time we had talked, and I haven't heard anything, and it's
Oh,
been,
goodness.
yeah, so I'm pretty sure
And that affects our community because,
jobs for
right,
one.
suicide rate.
Yeah.
The VA releases suicide rates every a 2-year delay.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that.
Oh, yeah. Well, at this particular hospital that I'm working at right now, there's all these signs up on the way into the employee thing. They're all about suicide rates and statistics, and they're talking about veterans and the 988 number and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, but this organization is part of the problem, and they're a big part of the problem right now. And I just want to, well, either tear them down or put up my own signs, which I think I might.
Sometimes it's fun just to put up your own signs.
I think I might do it, honestly.
You have to say something with your whole chest in capital letters sometimes.
Yeah, and I think I might. Well, I mean, it's going to be like tactful and it's going to be tasteful, right? So it's going to
Right.
be like trans veterans and then like trans kids, because there's like statistics about kids and there's statistics about veterans and there's whatever. But it's like, okay, but you need to understand that this community that you're disparaging is even more likely to commit suicide or complete suicide, because there was a study that I just read earlier today about how many queer youth have access to firearms in their home. Like, it's substantially more. And especially if you're a veteran, chances are you probably have a gun in your house. A lot of times people do. And like if your parent was a veteran or something like that.
And we have the North Carolina legislative Raleigh passing bills to where they don't even want you to get a background check to get a concealed carry permit now. They just want to let anyone buy guns. So when we talk about that root cause analysis,
Yeah. But trans people are doing mass shootings now.
yes,
And
it's
it's an
everybody.
epidemic.
It's a behavioral health emergency for sure.
Oh yeah,
The
100%.
last time I checked, it was what, 1 out of every 5 Americans had a mental health disorder.
Oh yeah, it's at least 1 out of 4 now. But like the conservatives or whatever are using
Yes.
this trans person that unfortunately did murder some people at a church, I think, in
Minnesota.
Yeah. So that's really scary and that's really sad, and I would never say like, well, somebody made her do that, because in the end it's like it's a decision that she made. But you can't just start saying that
Right.
trans people are going to start shooting
And it
everybody.
fits the theme that
It
these
does.
certain people have been using. I call it hate bait
Yeah, it jumped right in
because
that
it
mold. Yeah.
triggers I feel the more simplistic, rigid people,
Yeah.
because it's something that they don't understand, but they don't understand that you simply don't have to understand. You
Yeah.
just love people. That
Why do you
anyone
care?
watching this, that is the secret to life, is that you just love people and treat them with dignity,
What I
no
always
matter who
say
they are.
is people can be assholes, right? But it's not like you're more likely to be an asshole because of the color of your skin. You're not more likely to be an asshole because like you don't fit your gender stereotypes. Like you can't say that this whole group of people is like this with stereotypes for race, for genders, for whatever. Just stop putting people in whatever box you want them in and just let them live their lives. And if they're rude to you, then just don't deal with them. And if they're nice to you, then be nice to them. Like,
And,
I just,
a part of my so first of all, when I was on the ballot in 2024
mhm.
against Representative McNeely, I knew that I was going to lose
Yeah,
to begin with.
right.
But this is how I like gerrymandering into voter education,
Hmm.
but also because of the attacks that our community was under. And I wanted to go out and show these people. And some folks came up to me, and I take their word for it. But some folks told me it was their first time meeting an openly gay married man. So I seen like my campaign and going out to the corners of the county as a little bit of exposure therapy for these folks to see that queer people aren't, we are just beings like everyone else.
You weren't driving around in an unmarked white van trying to give pancakes to
No,
children. We don't
no.
want your children.
Or trying to attack families at barbecues while,
We don't want your children.
no.
The things that I read on Facebook, which I just, I wish I didn't have eyes sometimes, but like the things I read on Facebook where people like, did you see the stream of things of people complaining about the protests that are happening on Saturdays?
No.
Somebody was like, what are these protests happening every week? And I was like, it's literally from like 11 to 1. Like, I think you'll be fine. And then she was like, well, it makes it very uncomfortable to walk downtown and it's harmful to
Oh.
businesses. And I was like, is there the pop-up business in the Civic Center now? Because I wasn't aware that there was a business. Or are you just trying to get the ABC store and you're having trouble? Like, what's happening? Because you're not blocking any businesses. Right. You're not like standing in front of the jeweler or whatever, like it's like that one guy who's like screaming out of his Bible. But anyway, so I got into this whole thing with these people about like, well, I said, well, you know what? Some people are upset that the government is taking away rights from people and feel the need to go out and
let
say
their neighbors know.
Yeah, let their neighbors know and let them know, like, hey, like this isn't okay. Does it have to be every weekend? Yeah, until they.
When people are not
I think you took a couple weekends
given
off.
due process,
Yeah.
which means simply that you can be arrested and thrown in jail for no reason with no trial at all,
Or
which has
deported.
literally happened. And when you have martial law, which is literally happening,
Yeah.
that is not normal.
No.
And I would say, as one of those people who are out there every Saturday, 11 to 1, by the way, in the Statesville Square,
Yeah.
For a friendly, neighborly American value protest. And
Right.
we bring the vibes, we bring speakers, we have a dance party.
I know.
So I found it interesting that she said that she felt uncomfortable because
Yeah.
we greet every family,
I know. I was like,
everybody
I said,
with happy Saturday,
I said that.
welcome.
I said they're really nice people. You can just walk by them.
Yeah, we make a
Like,
hole.
they're not going to grab you. They're not going to yell at you. I was like, I mean, maybe you're uncomfortable about the blow-up suit that somebody's wearing. But I said, I think that what the problem is that you seem more uncomfortable with the message and less about the fact that there's people there. And then she said you guys should go protest in front of a food pantry, I think is what she suggested. Like,
well, that would be interesting considering
those are the people that are kind of on your side.
Well, considering that's the people, there's like the tail Robin Hood is literally happening right now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the rich people still.
Those are the people you want to give back to.
Yeah.
The people at the food pantry. You don't need to tell them that you're.
Which is literally where I volunteer most of my daytime hours.
You should I should tell her that. But yeah, so then some other guy who's argued with me on posts before, I'm sure you know who he is, but he was saying
Those people, one second though, that lady is someone who just doesn't like other people having different ideas or values from her own,
yeah,
which is totally not
and she
the
was
idea of the
and
United
people were
States of
saying you
America.
guys were like blocking traffic, and I was like, they are not blocking traffic.
Well, there's 2 cameras that hang right there that the
Mhm.
Statesville police can conveniently watch us.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and they were saying that they're disrupting your traffic, or they were making so many crazy claims.
Yeah.
And I was like, what are you guys talking about? And then some guy who can't even like form sentences properly said something about like how transgender isn't real. And he was like, and I said, he said something about I need steroids because I'm skinny. And then I said, you mean gender affirming care? Because I promise you the people that are losing it, that actually do need it, are gonna miss it a lot more than you are. And then he said like transgender isn't real. And I was like, I don't know why I'm arguing with you. You
Right.
have like one brain cell. Like I'm not gonna get through to you. But sometimes it makes me feel better.
I have learned, right, like in my therapy, that wonderful therapy that I got from that wonderful program before
Yeah.
they took it away, that I learned that, life relatively is short
Mm-hmm.
and time is your most essential asset.
Yeah. Yeah. And why spend that time hating people?
Exactly. Or arguing with people who literally just don't have the cognitive ability, I believe, to understand complex issues. And it's not this red and blue like football teams, but these are complex issues that affect your family and
Yeah.
everybody's families.
Yeah.
This is not, we shouldn't be poking at one another, because this is the mechanism that we use, right? Our government is how we make a difference in our citizens' lives.
Yeah.
So poking and talking about transgenders' rights and treating people like dirt. And in fact, the bathroom bill in North Carolina, I'm sure you know this, the first go around, it actually affected North Carolina's economy
Mm-hmm.
at millions of dollars. It's
Yeah.
not popular.
Right.
And business owners have made it clear that they are not interested in that. And
Mm-hmm.
one particular party, I don't understand why they don't want to focus on substance
Mm-hmm.
instead of targeting individual communities,
Yeah.
whether they be brown or they be queer or whatever. Let's stop putting guns in the street. Let's make health care available for everybody. I mean, what are we doing? Why are we worried? You and I are probably the same age. And I can tell you, until about 9 years ago, that if the government ever said that, hey, women, you can do this, this, and this with your body, they would have been, are you crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Like just 10 years ago, if the government ever would have tried to put their hands on abortions or what decisions that one could make with their healthcare provider, that would not have been tolerated.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of confused as to why
it got here.
why we're still there. Because it's just wasting time, kind of like with the local school system, and they were ranting against the queer community also. That ended up costing taxpayers millions of dollars for the new high school, because the political theater against our community postponed it, and prices on the construction actually inflated.
Yeah.
And the commissioners had to go out and secure other funding to build the high school. Simply because of hate. Hate costed us, all the Iredell County residents, millions of dollars for the new high school, because we had people like from
But heaven forbid we spend our tax dollars on making sure people get health care.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's right.
But yeah, what I was gonna say about you talking about running and being on the ballot even though you knew you weren't going to win, is that like when I met you and you said you were running, I knew you weren't gonna win either. But I just liked the idea of you being on it. you know, and you're campaigning and stuff, and you're going out and you're getting visibility and things like that, and you're giving people visibility. And and that's kind of why the reason that I still argue with people on the internet is because I want people to see that other people care about them and
Right.
will stand up for them.
And no matter what our backgrounds are, is that if you elect good individuals with integrity and civil servants who actually want to serve people and be their advocates,
Hmm.
life don't have to be this hard. We are in a pattern of trauma as a nation,
Yeah.
and people, and I understand that people are busy working 2 and 3 jobs, but whether we make election day like a national holiday, we need to prioritize our elections,
Hmm.
because the democratic process and voting is actually what the veterans have given their sacrifices in their lives for.
Right.
And people are so busy right now because life is so hectic as a regular working class person that politics, unfortunately, is not the top of their list. And so I hope that we can get new leaders in to inspire people to re-engage in politics
Hmm.
and just take the time and go out and speak with people and educate them.
Yeah.
I, like you just said, politics can be a complex subject. It can be difficult to understand, but if you have leaders to just go out and speak with people, work for the people instead of being for the donors or for whatever underhanded projects that you want to work on. If we focus as a community, building community and electing good neighbors to office, we can improve our lives right here.
So in Charlotte Pride,
Uh,
there were so many political organizations there. So there was like, the um like Mecklenburg County Democrats, and then there was like there were a bunch of like obviously Democrats,
mm,
but there was like the Democratic Socialist Party was there, and they were really cool. And then there were, people like being like, "Are you registered to vote?" Like Equality North Carolina. Um, I was with them, and they had the "Are you registered to vote?" thing. But I think it was like Vote 411 or something, where you can look up the statements of people who are running for different
okay.
things, and it's their statements. It's not like something that's written about them.
Hmm.
But then there was like a breakfast or something recently, and I want to say it was Iredell County, but it was like have a coffee with somebody running for something, and you could just go and talk to them about like what their plans were
Yeah.
and things like
Does
that.
that sound good to you as like a constituent? Does that
Uh
sound fun, or does it sound like you're a busy person? Like, wow, that's really
no,
fun
I
for me to get
wouldn't.
to.
I was not interested. To be honest, to be totally honest with you, because I would like to believe that, like, you want, for instance, like you want a healthcare organization to
Mm.
be like totally upfront and honest with you and stuff like that. But then when you really get into like talking to somebody in corporate, you find out that they're just talking through their teeth, and they all have the same freaking script and stuff anyways. And that's kind of like, I don't really want to listen to somebody talk about their spiel unless it's something that I care about. So if they're not queer, I don't really want to listen to them, to be honest. Or if they don't have that as one of their,
They have the platform
yeah,
765 any other time.
yeah. And like I want them to talk about the thing that matters most to me, which is to make sure that my friends and family have rights. And I was telling my therapist, like, it's all I think about anymore
Mm.
is just like, I need my patients and my friends and my family to be safe and cared for, and to be like valued and respected and everything like that. And anything that comes up that starts to like eat away at that, or maybe thinks like maybe tries to take that away, makes me crazy. And so like when like I was telling you, I've been having a hard time recently, it's because I can't stop thinking about it, and I can't focus on anything else, and I can't enjoy anything else because I'm so worried about what's going to happen. And especially with this huge healthcare organization just starting we aren't offering gender affirming care to individuals under 19 anymore because we're afraid of losing our Medicare dollars. Well, you're the biggest company, so what's going to happen to all the little ones? And like, where does it end? Also, like, does it end with just people, minors, people under the age of 19, or does it end with not doing anything for anybody that identifies as transgender or non-binary anymore? And it's terrifying.
And I feel like we made so much progress
Yeah.
for it to be ripped.
Yeah,
Because
people
again,
keep saying that, like, it's so much more prevalent than it used to be. It's like, well, yeah, because they felt safe for a while to be able to come out and tell
right.
everybody who they actually were.
And whenever something's on your mind like that, and I know that there's so much going on in the world right now, joining and finding community like that protest on the Statesville Square, 11-1, because unlike what some of these make believe things that people say, we have built such a community because we've been going out there. At least it's May, I believe.
Yeah.
And we all knew each other topically. I'm a very private person.
Yeah.
I personally don't live in Statesville, so but as the weeks went on and on, we just we just gelled, and it feels like a family now. You don't feel so alone in the fight, and the way that we do fight back is doing things like we're doing right now, is just having open conversations about being queer, what's going on in the queer community, and then hopefully people take that information and apply it, and that's the secret of how we get out of this mess.
Well, that's the Queer Lina who's given me the opportunity to do this podcast. I met them at like a trans expo in Winston-Salem last year, and one of the founders of the organization, she's really cute, so I was like on board already. But anyways, so sorry, Beck. But like, so I was just like, yeah, whatever you want me to do. But then, I was telling her about this idea that I had for this podcast, which is silly, called Smut Did You Say? But like, the whole idea behind it was that I wanted to just destigmatize talking about sex and being open about things. And then I was like, well, I could make it a lot more about like queer like experiences. And then, with all this crap happening, I was like, what about just sharing stories and just helping people understand you're not alone?
Right.
Whether it's sex, whether it's politics, whether it's religious trauma and stuff like that. Like, there is somebody who can identify with what you're going through or what you have gone through. And like you said, like, a lot of people probably don't realize that they had PTSD until it was pointed out to them. And I know people that are survivors of sexual assault and trauma who are going through therapy and are having to reopen those traumatic wounds to finally come to terms and close that chapter of their life, because they didn't realize that these traumatic events that happened in the past are still affecting the way they live their life today, even if they're not having night terrors, or like, even if fireworks don't make you want to hide under your bed and stuff like that, that doesn't mean that you don't have PTSD.
Right.
And I have PTSD from COVID. I went through one particularly traumatic night, which was my first COVID positive patient, but she died, and I still to this day harbor guilt for that, because I feel like that if I had done something differently, she would not be dead. But there's not many days that go by that I don't think about that incident. And that's just one of the reasons why I wanted to be, an advocate for other nurses too, is because we do go through a lot of traumatic events, and just because it's like, well, that's part of the job, which is what I was told about workplace violence when I first started ER nursing. Well, it was just part of the job,
Wow.
And I'm sure that they said similar things about BH nursing. I mean, it's just part of the job. You get cursed at, you get screamed at, you get stuff thrown at you. People throw their water back in your face. It's just part of the job. And like it's just people people don't realize like how things affect other people. And there are a lot of resources that I keep telling other nurses, we don't know about so many resources because these organizations don't care to share them with us.
Right.
Or we don't realize that there's things like the ANA or the ENA, so American Nurses Association, or Emergency Nurses Association, or the American Association of Colleges of Nurses, or critical care nurses. And there's all of these different organizations that have these support groups for nurses. And they also have all this extra education. And a lot of their education is actually about improving health equity and access. And so they have these, not seminars, I guess they're kind of seminars, but these education things about how to improve care for transgender and gender diverse individuals, how to improve care for LGBT patients, how to improve care for your behavioral health patients, because that's a big part of the ER too.
Mm.
And they have not just working on like your clinical knowledge, but also just working on your taking care of humans, just treating people like human beings.
Right.
And that they have all of these things, and then you can go to these conferences and just like meet with all these amazing people who are so passionate about what they're talking about, and you can just feel like you're part of this community. And like the Statesville Pride, what an amazing organization. And Statesville PFLAG too. And like both of those organizations are so open and accepting, and anytime you go to an event that they're putting on, you feel like you're part of a community. And that's what I was telling one of the other people that I was interviewing, that's where I realized that I could participate in pride events because I am queer. But I was just like, well, I'm bisexual, but I'd never had a relationship with a girl, so I'm really bisexual, blah blah blah. They don't care.
Right.
Like, and then
The unconditional love part.
yeah, well, I wouldn't even care if I was straight. Like, as long as you don't
Yeah.
hate people, you're there. You can be there.
A good human.
Exactly. If you are a good human and um you want everybody to feel loved and accepted and everything, you don't have to like swear on I don't know, what would the queer equivalent of like a Bible be?
Oh, RuPaul's.
Oh yeah, RuPaul's Drag Race, the box set. Like you don't have to swear
The
on
box set.
RuPaul's Drag Race that you are queer. You don't have to be queer. You can just be an ally.
Right.
And you also don't have to have it all figured out, and you don't have to know what your flag colors are, and you don't have to be head to toe in
You
rainbows.
just know
and
that you're
stuff.
loved.
You
and
just know that you're
accepted.
loved, and that they're never gonna kick you out of anywhere that you want to be that they are, because they everybody's allowed in as long as you're being respectful.
Right.
And I just like, I love that about them, because you kind of think about it as like an elite like group of people, like, oh, it's just the drag queens and their whatever, and I want to be in on it, but I don't know if they'll accept me. Yeah, they will.
I just
Might not let you in their dressing room, but you can be there to watch their show.
And you talked about our PFLAG and our organizations here in Statesville. Being a native from here, wow, there was nothing here for queer people. Like, I know growing up here in more of a rural location before the Wi-Fi internet, it was isolating, right? Like, I didn't feel connected in queer culture. And it was a really culture shock, especially when I got stationed like in England. And that's where I first got in. That's the first time I went to the gay club.
Really?
Yes,
Oh my
was in
God, how
England.
amazing. I mean, I'm sure it was terrifying, but like also
when
like,
I was raised here, some people are so hateful. They want to place fear onto you so that you will not blossom. And that's just one thing that as I grew up, I realized that I was like, there's so many naysayers that just want to hate on somebody or just put negativity out in the world. And
Let queer people exist.
that's all we ask.
It's not even about like let them be happy or let
Yeah.
them into your home
You don't
and
have to like
sleep in
us.
your bed and, whatever. No, just let them exist. Leave them alone. You don't have anything nice to say, just leave us alone. Like, that's all we
But
want.
be assured that we're just regular people like everybody else. And I know that everybody don't put their pants on the same way, but sometimes my husband and I will go somewhere and I'm so used to he and I, we just live our own little life. We don't worry about what other people think.
You don't worry about everybody.
But then sometimes you see out in public, you're like, oh, this is new to them, but that's not my problem.
No. Why should you be concerned?
Right.
And like I tell people on the internet, like pride events are not giant orgies.
Right.
Like as much as we might wish that they
I think that's projection from these people.
That they just want it to be all sex.
I think so.
They just want to see it.
I was back to the trends and patterns, like the projection from the one particular part of the aisle.
Yeah. I just want to be like, where is all the sex happening? Like just asking for a friend. Like where can I see this? Because like I have not seen.
What event have they dressed
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, are they looking at like Germany or whatever, or the Netherlands, where like those things, like there's certain areas where public sex is allowed, like it's like legal. So I mean, like, is that where that's happening? Because that's like allowed there, like they're allowed to do that, like
I just think people. I think when you start fixating on what bathroom someone uses, what sexuality someone is, if you find yourself asking those questions in your mind before saying, hey, how's your day?
Yeah.
There's a little like something backwards with that.
If you say you're bisexual to like a woman who's not like in the queer community or whatever, they're gonna be like, oh, so are you gonna hit on me?
And I think that projection comes from self-fantasy, and I think it comes from a lack or perhaps an ability to understand, just people are different. I mean, as simple as that sounds, some folks are very rigid.
Some people like having sex with the light on, and some people like having sex with the light off.
Right.
And I don't like,
Right.
Whatever
works for you. But when you start putting your beliefs or your insight or your perception on to others, that's where I feel like is the problem.
Yeah. I saw something on
They just tell me, I wanted to tell you real quick, when I would go in the northern part of the county, right? On my adventures during my campaign, they would say, you're brave. And my response would be like, well, thank you. Although I know it was said, to be said in a way of an intimidation.
Oh, yeah. They'll be like, oh, you're really brave to come out over here in the sticks where you're not going to be welcome. Oh, well, thank you.
Next time I'll bring a sidearm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whatever. A rainbow one. But I was going to say with the bathroom thing, I on one of my like queer groups on Facebook, somebody was like, I don't have a problem with you being transgender in the bathroom next to me, but don't talk to me. It's like, it was like, you can pee next to me, but don't talk to me. Like, I don't care where you do your business, but like, just mind your own.
Right.
But that's the thing is like, people are really fixated on the sex aspect of it and just genitalia in general.
It's very elementary.
If you tell somebody that is against just queerness or think it's a sin or think God hates queers or whatever, just tell them go to a place where a pride event is happening and just watch. And what you're going to see is people laughing, singing, dancing. There's going to be a lot
love and community,
a lot of clapping the fans these days. But just people being happy about being around people who don't hate them.
Right.
Like existing. simply existing. And yeah, sometimes we have to have a party to be able to feel like normal, but and I'm sorry that that takes up a block of your city on one
One
weekend.
weekend a year.
Yeah, but get over it. You know, you're blocking traffic and you're disrupting businesses and stuff
Oh my
to
goodness.
share your to try to.
Well, just to hear that perspective is so interesting, right? Because like literally we've been out there, and I know because we've
Do you
been out
have to
there.
be out there every weekend
I don't
though?
have to be. I choose because I see it as a service to my community, right?
Right.
Like in a service for democracy. Because real talk, we are in some serious trouble right now.
100%.
And so, I feel it's ever since I was a little boy, I've always felt a call to service.
Mhm.
When I was a little boy, and they say that the universe works in this ways, I wanted to be a police officer, not to arrest people, but to be like more of the civil, like the serve and protect. So
Right, like somebody would need help and you'd
right,
show up.
right.
Yeah.
So that when I went to MEPS for military, the one day the guy said they typically have all these MP jobs.
Mm-hmm.
They did not have one military police officer job.
Yes, I've heard
That worked
awful.
out, and it was the worst job in the Air Force. And I
Yeah.
ended up working on airplanes instead. But service is always service during the pandemic as a nurse. When I ran for office, knowing that I was going to lose, that's a service, but to educate the public, bring awareness that, hey, I know everybody has been let down by politicians in the past, but
Mhm.
we got some new characters in town, and let's do this. We work together. We can make a change right here. Hold on.
Yeah. And like you said before, you can get involved in politics without understanding everything and without running for office. You can find a local group that has the same values as you. If you're a nurse, there's plenty of nurse advocacy groups that write things to like send to government officials, or you can like help like draft a new policy to present, or like with the AMA, with the doctors, they have their advocacy realm as well. But there's other advocacy groups like the Human Rights Campaign you can get involved with. So there's just a lot of places where you can go to the government and say like, hey, this isn't right. Like we need to do something about this. And you can also just email or call your local representatives and just be like, hey, just wanted to bring that issue up again.
And a good app for that, by the way, with scripts is called 5 Calls.
5 calls?
Mhm.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
The president of Union County Pride is getting called out by some political people in Monroe about posting something affirming to the trans community after that one trans serial killer.
After all the regular Caucasian,
Yeah, Christian, white, straight, yeah.
far right.
But there was one transgender female that killed some people, and now it's an epidemic. And it's something that's going to happen all the time, and our children aren't safe, and blah, blah, blah. But, when it was white kids killing our kids, it was like, oh, well, we should give the teachers guns and the kids bulletproof backpacks and get that little stopper thing that they can put under the door.
Yeah.
That'll fix it. But now we have to arrest all the
I wanted to spout this out right now because it's in my mind, and this is real. Reflecting on Columbine and then to this moment in 2025, the youth just do not understand that gun violence like that was that is newer to the last 20 years.
It was so shocking to like, what year was that? It was like,
I was like 1999, I believe.
Yeah, and I was like 8. So you were what, like 13? Yeah. So I was terrified that something like that was going to happen to me. And I could not even fathom that happening.
And I know at the time that most people thought that that was just a
A one-off.
one-time thing. And then since then, we've had Parkland. I don't even know how many we've had. Then we had the Pulse nightclub.
Don't forget about the Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech.
That was
it's
older
just-
students, but still,
Yeah.
like,
it went from, I know personally,
Sandy
a
Hook.
time where I was like, oh my goodness, this tragic one-time event. And it's just snowballed, and it only seems to get worse and worse.
well, not only that, but the kids that were speaking up about Sandy Hook, or the ones, I think it was the kids that survived the Parkland shooting.
Mhm.
They were speaking in front of crowds and stuff like that. And people were spreading rumors and stuff about them
Right.
and being super hateful and saying that they were just doing it for the media and like all this crap. Their friends died.
Right.
Like their family
And people
members
said
died.
that was not real. I just don't understand. I don't understand.
Well, I
that.
mean, people got like majorly sued for saying that Sandy Hook wasn't real.
Right.
And which is, I mean, I wouldn't call it justice, but at least it's a step in the right direction.
Right.
But I mean, those parents, like, you're going out there and you're saying, like, please keep guns away from our kids, and they'll be like, oh, your kid didn't even die. Like, what is wrong with you?
And this was not normal, just like we were talking about.
Yeah.
Like, it all started 1999, and it has just festered and gotten worse and worse.
It's so easy to get guns.
Yeah, they just passed, our state senator and state representative in this district just passed legislation in Raleigh again to make it easier to get concealed to carry without a permit, meaning you can take a gun in anywhere without having any kind of background checks. And
Awesome.
Yep.
And that also makes it really easy to complete suicide if you're having a
Mhm.
really hard time, or,
Yes.
you know, you can just walk in and be like, hey, I want one of those. And
And if you're a nurse that's been fired from your job because you've been railroaded or blacklisted, or if you're working 2 and 3 jobs and, you're just trying to exist, you're not even get to live life.
mhm,
That's depressing.
yeah.
And of course, yeah, you're right. If you have a gun laying around, like, that's easy to see. It's easy to see. There's so much struggle and unnecessary suffering in this nation.
Well, I will say, if you do have a gun and you have it for like home protection purposes, family protection purposes, and stuff like that, but either you or somebody who you live with or that might come visit you has depression, get a gun lock.
Right.
You don't have to have it in a safe. You can have it readily available, and a gun lock is like, I think it's a code. So there are probably different ones. You can get them at the fire department. You can get them at the gas station. You can get it from the American Prevention. I want to say it's American Suicide Prevention, ASP or APS or something like that. But anyways, they have gun locks and they give them away for free. At Pride, the APS was there and they were giving away gun locks. I was at Comic-Con in Charlotte and they had gun locks. They weren't giving them away, but I asked about them and they handed me a box of 25 of them. So I was like, cool. And then I gave it to some a like mental health like tent that was at another Pride event that I went to. So yeah, I mean, like there are lots of resources that we covered today. While there isn't a government run line for veterans or queer people anymore, there are individually run lines. Like the Trevor Project still has an LGBT helpline, and I'm pretty sure there is a veterans line that is not through the government, but I'll have to look into that. It was on there, but I don't know if that's the active one or if that's the old one. I'll link resources to advocacy for nurses, healthcare providers, advocacy for human rights in general, and maybe we can put together a little like learn about your government
Yeah,
type of
that'd be
thing.
awesome.
And like how to get involved in government. And I think it's Charlotte Trans Health has if you want to write a letter to your legislator, like here's a template type
Mm.
thing. So I know that things like that exist.
And the local
as well.
Democratic Party here in Iredell County is assembling a LGBTQ plus caucus.
That is amazing.
Oh yeah.
That is amazing.
So if you're looking to get politically engaged in queer community,
Mm-hmm. And if you need a queer community to come hang out, you can always hang out in Statesville. Because we're pretty cool. And we got, like, people have events going on all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, the Watering Hole in particular is a bar downtown that they have events, and they're a very, very queer-friendly place. But they have events for the Statesville Pride community a lot. And then, PFLAG has support meetings the, like, second Thursday of the month, I want to say. But yeah, I mean, like, there are a lot of resources, again, like I said, that people don't know about, whether for reporting or for helping yourself. And I'll also post the mental health resources specifically for healthcare providers. We can find more about help for queer veterans, see if we can find something about that, since those services aren't as prominent
as they
or
were.
existing in general as they were. But yeah, those are definitely things that I would love to look into to be able to give to our viewers. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, I would say that there's municipal elections in Statesville this fall.
Mm-hmm.
Election day is November 4th. Early voting begins mid-October.
Mm-hmm.
So Statesville has the opportunity to elect some visionary leaders, the public servants. So I hope that you guys, look them up, do your research. Please always vote, but please always do your research, and just do not vote for someone because of their party affiliation. Please. Please. Please look into someone's integrity, what they voted for. And that is simply the easiest way to tell if your representative is working for you the way that you want them to or not, is
Mhm.
simply look at their vote record.
Yeah.
You could save the lip service. Yeah.
Those
The
people
politicians
people
kind of
do
stuff.
switch parties to give
Yes.
themselves a better chance of winning.
And people like power, and they do that too.
Mm-hmm.
Just hold on to power.
Yeah.
But yes, please get active. Join protest if you can. Because as we talked in the
Every
session,
Saturday, 11 to
every
1.
Saturday in the Statesville Square, 11 to 1, simply because we are losing our queer rights, and this is how we fight for them. It will always be a fight, so dig in for that. But I believe that as a queer community, we're going to come together and certainly put up a good fight and resistance, because we're simply not going to sit back and take it.
And I think the best thing that we can do to fight is to just continue being there for each other and supporting each other.
Right.
And if you have the mental health and ability to do things like protesting, or like, writing a letter to a representative or whatever, I totally understand that not everybody has the ability to do that. Because I mean, we got our like single moms
Oh yeah.
and our working 3 and
You can
4
write
jobs, and
postcards.
yeah.
Like, you can get civically engaged just by wearing a T-shirt of a candidate, or making phone calls, or just driving people around while they knock on doors.
Mm-hmm.
There is a way. There is a way to serve your community. I mean, any way you want, really. If you want to just drop off door knockers and just
Mm-hmm.
drive and listen to music, hey, that's all you. So you volunteer, you serve your community, but you also bring what your strong skills are.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the queer community, we are loaded with skills. So
Mm-hmm.
I know when we bring our powers together, we can make change.
Right, absolutely. All right. Well, I will close this out. Coco, give me my thing. All right, and that's what he said. Have any titillating topics for the future? Still have burning questions from today's discussion? Feeling frisky and now you want some action? Slide into my inbox at smutdidyousay69@gmail.com. That's my real email address. To find out how you can get in on this. Follow Queerlina for a link to education and resources related to today's topic and updates about our next show. Good night, my little smut-heads.
Thank you for listening to Smut Did You Say? You can find links and resources mentioned in this episode in the description below. For a downloadable PDF of Nikki's resource handout, along with additional emergent support options for queer individuals, visit queerlina.org/helplines. That's QUEROLINA.org/HELPLINES. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you next time.